Once my solution is 1, 3, that works in the first one because 3 is equal to 1 plus 2 in that very first equation. And in the second equation, 3 equals 2 times 1, which is, if we are looking at it, 2 plus 1. So it works in both equations if I look at that, the 1 and 3. Okay? Any other questions from how much money? How much is she charging us, Isaac, per hour? How much is she charging per hour? She's charging $20 an hour. Would you read that again, what it says? Are you wrong? So how much is she charging per hour? $5 and $5.50 an hour. Not $20. $5.50 an hour, right? So Y equals 5.5. If she worked 1 hour, that'd be $5.50. She worked 2 hours, right? Should be up to $11, right? How about Marissa? Dallas, what do we do about Marissa? So you should be writing this on your paper. Marissa charges how much? Be easier to look at your workbook, probably. How much does she charge now? So she charges 50 cents an hour only, right?
No.
So if we're looking at Marissa, her charge is 0.5x plus 20. Okay? My next hint when you do this assignment is before you do number 2, do number 3. Number 3 says, when do they charge the same amount? If it's the same amount, that means I want to find y equals y. Okay? So my hint is it might be easier to do number 3 and then go back and do number 2. But number 2 less than, remember that just means you're going to put Marissa's charge has to be less than Yolanda's. So you're going to put, there are 2 equations. So in this case I might put 5.5x, right? That's how much Marissa made 50 cents. See? 0.5 x is Marissa's 0.5x plus 20, and Yolanda made 5.5x. Okay? So you're going to solve those as you are finishing this. When I take a look, as you read right before question 4, if you would please read that, Tanisha. Raj.
Age is 1 year less than 5 months. Tony's age is 2 years less than 3 times Sarah's age. Sarah is S years old. Raj is R years old and Tony is 2 years old.
So what you're going to be asked to do is you're going to be asked to write an equation for each one. So do you want to try and write Tony's or do you want to try and write Roger's age? And you're going to have your assignment will be after the quiz tomorrow that you're going to work on this assignment. So, just to help you out, which one do we want to do? The one in yellow, looking at Tony's age, or green? So there's not a 1 or 2. We're looking at the names, either Tony or we're looking at Raj's. So, if we are looking, when you see that phrase less than does mean subtraction, so both of them will be subtraction. So if we are reading and we want to take a look at it, Nikita, if we are looking at Raj's age, what is twice Sarah's age? What does that look like? If I know Sarah's age is S. So twice her age would be 2S. So when I look down here at this equation, I'm going to go 2S. It's not going to be 1 minus that. This phrase less than makes you switch the order. So we're going to have 2S minus 1. So when you finish the quiz tomorrow, because there's only 6 questions, it's not going to take you that long, you will be working on this assignment 11B and then also on the 12. Okay? This is bonus. You're going to be using this to help you write that equation. Okay? If you would please turn now to your notes.
The number of rich number of left-handed students. Total number of students in the class is 30.
So sometimes it makes sense, like in those last ones, when we did the babysitting one, we looked at, we put them both in slope intercept form. Sometimes it makes more sense to use the variables that you're given. So for right-handed people, we're going to use R because that's going to be my right hand. So please write that down. That's for right-handed people instead of using X and Y. And then L is going to be for left-handed. Okay, so put down your two variables. You always want to identify your variables when you are looking at the problem. So we're in your notes. Okay, we're in your notes on that page. So the next thing, go from that first statement, the right-handed people are, this phrase, when you see the word is in your story problem, is almost always is our equal sign. Okay, so anytime, and this isn't every time, but most times when you see is, it's going to mean equal. So the right-handed people in math class is, okay, 9 times the number of left-handed. So R equals 9 times
20, 30.
L. We don't know how many are left-handed, right? We don't know the number of students that are right or left. We do know that there are 30 people in class. This is going to be my first equation, and it comes from that first statement that I underlined. Okay? If I have the total number of students is 30, that means the right-handed plus the left-handed has to be equal to 30. They're not telling us that we have some students that are both right and left in your notes. You don't have your notes with? No. Where would they be? Okay, so start writing this now. Put problem 1 from G12. So problem would probably be to use substitution. And I know that R equals 9L. So I'm going to rewrite this, and I'm going to put 9L plus L, do this on your paper, equals 30. And the nice thing about adding 9L plus L is it tells me 10L is going to be equal to 30. And if I'm solving, when I divide both sides by 10, the number of left-handed people in my class happens to be 3 people, right? Because I'm taking 30, I'm dividing that by 10. Okay? So now we need to find the number of right-handed people. You could either go back to this equation and take 3 times 9 to get 27, or you could go to the second equation, right? You take 3 plus L equals 30 and subtract it. Both ways, when I solve it, it doesn't matter if I go to this equation and go, oh, the right-handed is equal to 9 times 3, or 3 plus L equals 30. Both ways, the number of right-handed people is going to give me 27 people. Now, some of your story problems are going to ask you for both answers. Some of them are going to only ask you to find one answer. So, Connor, on that next problem, would you please read about our 2 trees that we are talking about?
My nursery is growing a tree that is 3 feet tall and grows at an average rate of 1 foot per year. Another tree at the nursery is 4 feet tall and grows at an average rate of half a foot per year.
So when you read the problem, Connor, do we know a rate of change?
Yeah.
Yeah. The rate of change is what for the first tree?
1 foot per year.
1 foot per year, which means X has to be the years, and Y is going to be our height. Okay? If we know Y is the height, Y equals, as I look at this, Connor said it's growing at 1 foot a year, so Y equals 1X. How tall was the tree when it started? If I'm looking forward. How tall was tree 1 when it started? Started at 3. So Y equals 1X plus 3. Okay. I'm looking at my second equation. Irvin, for the second tree, its height, how fast is the second tree growing? What's its rate of growth?
0.5.
0.5. So these two are what we're putting in front of our x. So 0.5x plus it started at what height?
4.
It started at 4. And the question that we are asked as you are looking at that, Jerica, asks us to find what? Down here. What are we trying to find? We need to know when those two trees are going to be the exact same height. When tree 1 is equal to tree 2. So if we are looking at that in our equation, okay, we are going to put, we need to know when tree 1 equals tree 2. Since tree 1 is y and tree 2 is also y, we are going to put the first y for tree 1. It was 1x plus 3. This is really substitution. The second tree is really 0.5x plus 4. Deshaun, if we're going to think of solving that, we want to get all our x's on one side. Want to subtract 1x or 0.5x? We're going to subtract 0.5x from both sides. After I do that, Grace, I'm going to end up with 1 minus 0.5 leaves us with 0.5x. I have plus 3 equals 4. Next step, Riley, to get our x by itself. Subtract 3 from both sides. So that as we are taking a look at our equation, we have 0.5, or if you wanted to write it as a fraction, right, 0.5 or 1/2 x is equal to 1. If we are trying to solve and you have 0.5x equals 1, you are going to divide both sides by 0.5. 1 divided by 0.5, or in this case, I'm thinking of multiplying by 2 over 1. If you do it on your calculator or if you're doing that division, x comes out to equal 2. And the question said in how many years? X is our years. So the answer to our question is going to be 2 years. Do we need to know the height? Does it ask us for the height of the trees?
No.
No. So you are done with just finding the one variable as you are looking at that. Zach, at the top of the next page, would you read the story that we are looking at?
At the local student center, members pay a one-time $20 membership fee and then $3 for every aerobics class that they attend. Non-members pay $5 for every aerobics class that they attend.
So, first thing we're asked to write a system. Do we have a rate per class that we are charged? Yeah. Aaron, what is, so we are going to say x is equal to our aerobic class. Okay? Because the question asks us, when is the cost the same for the number of aerobic classes? Like, how many classes can you take that it's the same? So x is going to be our aerobics classes, and y is going to be our cost, or how much money we spend. So Kiara, when we look at it, if we are looking at our members, their cost, y equals, what are they paying per aerobic class? $3. So we're going to have 3x, so 3 times each class, but what else do members have to pay? Which in this case is not a finder's fee, but a membership fee. So if you are a member of that club, you pay $20 up front and then $3 per class. Okay? If you are a non-member, if we are looking at that, Zach, how much are we charged per class? $5. So y equals 5x. The question said, when will the costs be the same? So we're trying to find out when our cost, which is y, when the y for members, so members Y equals the non-members. I had someone tell me they would have done this with elimination. Elimination would be okay, but they are telling you Y equals Y. So this is so much easier, and we're not going to solve this whole one because we want to look at the next equation. But if I put my cost per members, it was 3x plus 20. What was my cost for non-members? 5 times each class X. I can now solve this by getting all the variables on one side, okay?
Books for school. Each yearbook costs $5 to print and sells for $25. How many yearbooks must they sell before the business breaks even? When income equals expenses and you make $0 profit.
So in this case, when we start to write our equation, what I would like you to put down is that we are going to start with income. So put the word income. You're not at a pencil, right? So we're going to put income equals 25x because what do we know, Nolan? Each yearbook sells for what? $25. Okay? So income, Y equals 25x. What about how much it's costing me? And this is going to be our expenses. So please write down expenses. Expenses is going to be what? We are going to be looking at the expenses being $5 for each yearbook, plus there was this startup fee, right, that we had to pay to get all of this equipment to make our yearbook. So Y equals 5x plus 10,000. And what they tell us is that in order for this to find this break even, so we are now going to try and find what's called the break even point. The break even point is where income equals to expenses. My income was 25x. My expenses was 5x plus $10,000. We are going to solve this one. If I am solving, Cody, and I want to get rid of this 5x, or not Cody, well, if I want to get rid of 5x, what do I have to do? How do I get rid of 5x on this side of the equation? Minus 5x. After I do that, Caden, I'm going to be left with what? 20x equals 10,000. If we have 20x equals 10,000, we're going to divide on both sides by 20. So if we are looking at this one, the question says, if we are looking at it, x was equal to what we have for a solution? 500. What was the x? What do you think the x stands for in this problem? X is our what? Yearbooks. So, the question said, how many yearbooks must you sell? Do we have to find out how much the cost is going to be? We just know that we have to sell 500 yearbooks. You do not have to solve in this case for what that cost is going to be, where that is going to be. We just need to know how many yearbooks. So,
Almeida is advertised to read a month in her collection. Add the number of months after which they will have the same number of CDs.
I might use X or I might use M, right? Why would I use M instead of X? Because we're talking about the number of months, right? And it's asking us when are the 2 months going to be the same. I might use Y or I might use C. Because C stands for what? The number of what? CD. So this is in your workbook. Because this is the number of CDs. Okay? And as I look at it, I am now going to do first for Tom. Tom's equation might be Y, or depending if you like to use C. What's happening for Tom if we look at his situation? How many CDs is he gaining each month, Riley? Each month he adds how many to his collection? Okay, is he adding 18 a month for Tom? Tom is adding 1. So that's gonna be like my 1x or 1m, right? Plus, how many did Tom start out with? You started out with 30. So Tom's equation, depending how you wanna write that, with y or with c, right? And now we have to have an equation for our second person, which was for Nita. If I'm gonna write Nita's, y equals, how many each month is she adding to her collection? So we're gonna have y equals 5x. She did not start out with as many. She started with 18. And the question was, when will they be the same? So now this is where you can look at your assignment and decide, oh, I want to